You are watching Omnis Protocol. I am Charles, also known as Omnis, and I have another gameplay commentary Shatterpoint video for you. This time, this was held at Nomads. It was a local game store tournament. This is the third round finals game between myself and Jake. Jake is a wonderful part of the community. I've enjoyed every game that I've played with him. He's just one of those people you're really thankful that's in your community and helps contribute. Um, who doesn't love having a great opponent? And so Jake got to the table and saw that I was playing kind of an Armorer anchor, and I had played my other two primaries, but I had not played Mandalorian yet. So it was pretty obvious that my intent was to play the Armorer and the Mandalorian in this third round. He had played both of his sort of 2x2 of his premier list, and so he had Mandalorian and Armorer on one side, and then he had Darth Vader, Jedi Hunter, and Luminara on the other. He specifically did not want to play the mirror, and so he elected to play Luminara and Darth Vader, Jedi Hunter. I do think he has a very interesting list. I know I have a reputation for not thinking very highly of Darth Vader, Jedi Hunter, and that is still true, but if I were going to play him, I would pair him with Luminara, like 100%. I think she is absolutely the best other primary to help Darth Vader. And I really like his overall list design. It's cool. He's got Fifth Brother and Crosshair with Luminara, and then he's got Ezra and Lando and R2 with Vader. What's really cool about this is he has two different tie-breaking models, Ezra and Fifth Brother, to move around with that Luminara identity, which I think is great. Like this is a really cool direction to take that sort of list. And then you also have Crosshair, who puts a huge amount of pressure, who also can just wound people at range. So it kind of creates a diverse, interesting list. It still has the revenge trigger side where you're going to heal characters up a little bit. Very, very, very cool. I was kind of excited to see how this game was going to play out exactly. I'm playing the Armor box as is. And then I also have the Mandalorian with Bo-Katan and Clan Kryze now that they have the era adjustment. And we're kind of affectionately referring to it as the new Mando box. So going into this game, I did win priority. He had Never Tell Me the Odds, and I had shifting priorities. I've kind of just been feeling lately like Never Tell Me the Odds can have some really skewed results at the end where just what order of cards are left in your order deck versus which struggle reveals in the third just feels like a really impactful combination of randomness to me. And I've felt like in general, I get a little bit more consistent game on shifting priorities. And since I was trying out something new, I felt like I would just lean into that. Additionally, something I realized while I was prepping for this is that we did have one of the objective tokens in the wrong spot. And I don't know how much that's going to impact the game overall. It looks like it did affect his deployment. I will blame Jake at least a touch on this one. I'm pretty sure he's the one who put that objective token down, and neither of us realized the entire game. But it should have been more on the back, or like kind of if you're looking at it, it's the top of the screen basically. It would have still been on the terrain, but it would have been a couple inches further back, kind of in line with those other two. And so that was just something I think we missed. Kind of long day, but he's still starting off being able to score it, and it's not a hugely impactful objective. I just wanted to apologize about the placement, but I think it's time to just get into this game. So let's roll with things. I'm going to start the main gameplay footage. Skipped showing you guys deployment just to kind of keep things smooth and easy. I've got Mando on the left, Armor on the right. He's got Vader on my left and Luminara on my right. And so looking down, I've got to go first. And I reveal Clan Kryze Mandalorians. And I'm actually totally fine with this poll because I'm thinking he's got a lot of things that want to murder a one particular character. And so I'm definitely thinking let's split up my Mandalorian. So that way, I was like, I always have this happen where as soon as I go and take a midline objective against Vader, Vader activates first. And so if I put someone across from him, I know he's going to die. And so there's no reason for me to keep them on the same point. And so I'm thinking, let's go ahead and just go for both of the middle points. Because that way, even if I do have to deal with Vader right away and he kills them, he doesn't immediately have any way of taking the other objective. So I do advance and then hunker, and then I'm going to spend a force for jetpack to get both of them actually on the objectives. Here, I did have an interesting decision point where often you want to position so that you're harder to shove off the gantries and the terrain and that sort of thing. But there's also a Vader on the table. So there's this chance that maybe I want to be max distance on the off chance he can't get into melee is crossing my mind. And so I decide to go ahead and lean that direction. I don't know 100% if that's the right call or not in the situation, but that is certainly what I chose. Uh, I'm able to start off controlling 3 objectives, which best I can really ask for in this situation. I think that's a great way to start this. And he starts off controlling 1, no score. So going into his first turn, I'm kind of like, please don't Vader me right away. He flips Ezra. I'm pretty happy with this overall because I know Ezra is not going to generate flipping 2 points. And so having this be his first activation, I think is totally fine for me. He is 100% going to take 1 from me, but I think when player 2 only scores 2 points to start off, that's great for me. And so I'm going to be happy with this outcome pretty much no matter what. So he goes up with Ezra. He does the jump first and then the advance, which I think is great. Here I was checking, like, did you want to be in melee range? He definitely had the movement. And so when we checked and he was just a little bit out, he was electing to just move him a little further forwards, which I was totally fine with. He had that movement. I was not worried about it. That's what he wanted. And he decides he's doing the Vader stuff. So Vader identity, he's putting 2 damage on Ezra, and he's going to make an attack into the Clan Kryze. I roll 4 dice and get 3 blocks, 1 fail. Perfectly happy with that roll. That's as good as I could possibly ask for. He's rolling in, and I'm thankful, like, he doesn't have anything too crazy, and so it's looking like he's not going to be able to wound me. Not a lot of characters will deal 7 damage on 4 dice, because that requires 3 out of 4 of those spots to have 2 damage. So what he ends up doing is he does 4 damage total and pinning me. So, hey, my Clan Kryze have lived through 1 attack. I'm calling that a win. I think anyone who plays Shatterpoint these days, if your support does not immediately get wounded, you are happy. But Ezra still takes the point because he is a tiebreaker. So I reveal Shatterpoint. There's a lot of interesting Shatterpoints in my list. Obviously, Armor's a great Shatterpoint. Mando's a great Shatterpoint. The right situation, Paz is a fantastic Shatterpoint, and I'm totally down to Shatterpoint my supports when it's that time. But looking at the board state, I'm kind of thinking that doing bow might be really strong because I'm noticing with the list, I can have better struggle 1s if I give a jump to Paz or Armor or both as the first part of the game is progressing. And so I'm thinking if I can get Paz a little further forward, since he doesn't have a double movement for himself, that will help me later on, even though it doesn't do a whole lot in this moment. So I am choosing to Shatterpoint Bo-Katan. So first part, activate ability, move Paz, and now she's going to advance to the ladder and then goes up the ladder. And so because she's ending within range 2 of the Clan Kryze, she does get the Mandalorians are stronger together, which gives me a free focus. And when she focuses, she gets to heal 2, and then dash. I'm removing the pin and the 1 damage from the Clan Kreese right now because I'm not going to dash her away from them. So that is the incorrect order, but we had talked about it in the moment. I'm like, I'm just going to remove this 2 damage. I'm going to keep Bo-Katan within range 2 of them. I'm just kind of deciding exactly where I want her to go. Because like being up on the point, I'm a little concerned, like making sure that I have the perfect shove angle and that sort of thing. And maybe in retrospect, because I can't go up the ladder with where I position the Clan Kreese, I decide to dash down, and so that I have a better shove angle where I'm feeling much more confident about the shot, and maybe I can get the jump on my tree and conserve a force, is what I'm thinking. So he rolls. He only gets 1 expertise, so he's not getting his extra dash. So he's only blocking 3. I basic Yeah, I rolled a crit and 6 successes, and so it perfectly a solid roll. I can't complain about that. And so I'm gonna go 4 down on him. And now I look and I'm like, oh, I can wound him because of the 2 damage from Vader. And this is a side effect of Vader. A lot of people just think about the rolling dice part, and you don't often think about how big of a deal that 2 damage can actually be. This is changing one of the more important models on his team that can be very threatening with that, dash, and then is a tiebreaker. And now it's going to get wounded right away. The downside is if I wound, then I don't get the jump for free. I have to go down a different path. And so I'm just weighing the saving of force or staying down on that level versus wounding. My final decision ends up being that I am willing to spend the force and I want Ezra wounded. Just because his list is so good at putting Ezra back onto points, I feel like I will regret it if I don't get Ezra wounded now, because I'm not going to make that many attacks over the course of the game, and I feel like it's smart to just like have Ezra be wounded now. So I elect to shove. It's interesting here. I With the parallax of the table, I don't think I put Ezra in the right spot. I think Ezra would have kind of been on the other side of that little scatter terrain, rock. But at the time, I thought I was putting him in the right spot. Again, it doesn't matter that much for the game, but it's just an interesting thing to think about with just how much parallax affects where you think an angle is from across a table versus straight down. So I do elect to spend the force to jump Bo-Katan on the point because I'm thinking Vader could fill up any time, and I want Vader, if he kills either Bo-Katan or Clan Kreese, for me to retain control of that point. So he flips Fifth Brother, and while Fifth Brother could absolutely go take a point, it is advantageous to save Fifth Brother until I put someone on that point, and it would be more interesting if he can take a point from me. So he elects to reserve Fifth Brother and gets Vader here. I'm like, and this is a Vader list. You're pretty much happy when Vader comes up. So he's going to do the advance to the ladder with the ability, and so he still has 2 actions at this point. And he's electing to go after the point with Bo-Katan and Clan Kreese. I didn't think about it in the moment, but I actually think this is a mistake. I think it would have been better. He had plenty of movement. He could have gone after the Clan Kreese in the middle, and I think it would have been better to have Vader be a bit more central, and he could guarantee taking a point. I think Jake might have seen red a little bit and been like, I want to wound Bo-Katan because she's the juicier wound, as opposed to, 4 damage on a support that he can probably get later. I have a great defense roll. I get 5 blocks against Vader, but it's Vader and crits, and he ends up with the exact amount of damage that he needs. He goes, I believe, 4 down his tree. And the net result is it's 7 on his tree and then 2 from his ability. So yeah, he's got to do 9 damage after my protection, and he gets it exactly to the point. Perfect Vader doing Vader stuff. But but the end result here is still that I have Clan Kreese on the point. He does make a really interesting play here. So he gets the wound, but he elects to keep Bo-Katan on the gantry, which I think is really interesting because it kind of consumes real estate on the side that's easier for me to get to, which is something that can come back to really benefit a player down the road. And so I think this is a play that maybe most people would just go for the auto shove off. But again, consuming that real estate, I think it's a better play than it might seem on paper. So he resolves the Lumi trigger and moves R2 up the ingress point. Now, I've got a trigger and I get a free reposition from Mando. The heal part doesn't do anything. I am going to have him go up the ladder. There is a world here where I consider going for a more central position with him, but I kind of wanted to be able to be in a better position to threaten that back point. And he's still one reposition away from getting to that ladder. So I'm okay with this position, but I definitely think you could very easily go with something more central for him in that moment. And I think taking that ladder spot might actually be a really good play for Mando. So just a thing to think about. So we realize here that we messed up the momentum just slightly because of the way the scoring is worked. It's going to 0. We've both wounded one character, so we both have gained 2 momentum. So then I reveal Bo. Like, she's my only wounded character at the moment. I'm perfectly fine with this. I'm looking at it, and a couple of things that are going through my mind here is, can I do her activation without spending a force? And what's the most likely spot for me to get a point? I'm already still controlling the point with Vader, so there's not a lot of reason to attack him. Because I got to figure out that activated ability for her first. So I was just kind of thinking, I'm like, can I actually, like, it would have been great if I had gone for a more direct angle for Paz kind of towards that high ground terrain. And then the second dash was able to get him to at least be scoring it. That would make for an even better play. But I definitely did not position for that. So something to think about for down the road. I like to just get Armorer a little further forward so that she can be threatening later on. So here what I'm thinking about is how can I do this without spending force? So what I'm thinking about is maybe I just dash basically up to Vader so that I stay within range 2 of the Clan Kreese so that I get the free focus action, and then dash towards R2. The unfortunate part about this is because the heal comes after the dash, I don't get to do another 2-point heal on the Clan Kreese, which would be cool, but I don't think the healing 2 is worth me having to spend a force to jump. So I like to let them be on 3 damage. So I don't have to spend force, but I get 2 dashes, and now I get to make, I believe, an 8 dice melee attack into R2, and I'm thinking, oh, I just have to go 3 down, and then I get to shove R2 off the point, and that's a great swing for me. He ends up rolling 4 blocks, which is fantastic. And so it's looking like I'm not going to get there. I'm only going to go 2 down. And so I'm just really going to put, I believe, 3 damage and then jump and just be a little bit closer to that objective. But oh man, I still, like, every time I look at this, like, man, if I had gotten 1 more down, that just would have put me in such a commanding place. But sometimes the dice just say no, and you just got to roll with it. So yeah, it does end up being 3 damage and a jump. So I just get Bo-Katan just a little bit closer, and at least I'm still controlling 3 points. So it's not bad for me. It was just something that, like, could have been great for me. So he has Luminara, so that's why you see him just kind of peeking at that card. So he's got to make a decision after seeing it whether he wants to do Fifth Brother or that card. And after seeing it, he elects that he is going to go ahead and do Fifth Brother. And so he's going to go ahead and get Fifth Brother onto that point. I'm okay with this. I like the idea of Fifth Brother getting to the point first, so I'm not giving up an attack as well. And so he's going to get on the point. He's going to take that 1 point, but he's not taking one from me. And I have all 3 characters on that side of the board can potentially take it back from him. So I'm totally fine with that. He only scores 2, which means he does gain a momentum. And he's declaring a hunker. And so he's putting the token down. I was just like, hey, did you want to go a little further forwards? And he's like, yeah, let me go ahead and hunker up against that piece of terrain. So now he has disappeared, so none of you can see him. But who sometimes getting yourself into a little better position is important. So I reveal Covert Mandalorians. I think this is a great reveal for me because it means I have 2 bodies. It means 100%. There's no rolling required, and I can take that point from Fifth Brother and score 4. So I love that. The challenging part of this activation is where do I want them to go? And because their expertise are a lot better at range. So I would love to shoot him, and his defense is worse at range, but he has hunker, and in a lot of angles, he's going to have cover. And so if I advance and then jump onto the terrain and I'm shooting him from the higher level, he has steadfast. And he's still got good defenses. So there's a chance that I don't even get to a shove, and then that would stop me from scoring it altogether. And so as much as I would love to shove him off, I think the most important thing for me to do is to guarantee 100% that both of them are going to be on the point. And so with that in said, I think it's better to go melee. So even though he has the higher melee defense, I would rather get rid of the hunker, not worry about cover, be guaranteed on the point. And if I get him shoved off, great. If not, I have that score, which is more important. And so what I'm thinking about here is going to go ahead and going to end up advancing both of them to make sure I get that focus action first. But we are talking a little bit about like which cards each side has left, and how he's going to potentially respond to it later on. Like, is Luminara Crosshair going to be able to put good pressure on that side of the board? And yeah, I love it when I can kind of get around cover by going to the higher elevation, shoot them, and then use the shove to basically fall down to the correct level. But I just don't think that's dependable in this particular situation. So you see me going ahead and moving them now. The first one is reaching within range 1 of the ingress point. So I'm going to go ahead and go up it just to give myself a little extra movement, even though I'm planning to actually jump. I think it might have been smart to do these in the other order, just because there might have been a world where that doesn't end up being within range 2, but it definitely was. But I think you do want to think about that and often move the one that's further back first, because you can often guarantee that. So that one jumps into melee range, and I'm choosing the armaments for impact. And that one also jumps up. So they're both engaged. You can't see any of them at this angle, but it's kind of just, if you imagine like an L shape, right? It's Fifth Brother and then Clan Kryze and then Clan Kryze, kind of positioned around that high ground. So I'm going to have the back one attack first on the off chance that I get to shove him off, and then the other one can shoot. So he has a pretty solid block of 3. And so I'm not going to do a whole lot here, and realize because he has steadfast, getting 1 shove doesn't matter. So what I elect to do here is I'm doing 3 damage and strain that's reduced to 2. And so that at least is kind of like the maximum effect. I don't think there's any other choice here for that covert Mando only going 2 down. So going to go ahead and go do the other one. Again, because I'm on the level, I'm not risking not scoring. He rolls 3 expertise, which is 2 blocks. I end up with a great roll. So I rolled all successes, basically. And so it was 1 crit, 1 expertise, and then all hits. And then the 1 expertise was 1 hit. So I just removed those 2 dice that were going to be blocked. So I'm going 5 down. And so looking at this, I'm like, wait a minute, can I wound him? And at first glance, I thought the answer was no. But then I remembered I can reapply strain for a bonus damage to get me exactly to the 8 damage that I need after protection. And so I'm like, well, I'm not pushing him off now, but it does give me the ability to wound him. And again, we've been talking about it throughout this video. A huge value of his list is the ability to dash those, those tie-breaking units back onto a point. And so, so I go ahead, I go for the wound here. And it does mean that he would be able to use Luminara to heal some damage off of Vader. I think it would have been worthwhile to consider it on Lando and R2. So I gain a momentum. We didn't actually realize. I didn't realize until he was moving the tracker that I was scoring enough to win. I was actually kind of shocked. I thought for sure, just because we were like going through this so fast, and I had whiffed the Bo-Katan on R2. So I take that struggle with that play. So go convert Mandalorians. I don't think this is a fantastic flip for him for struggle 2, because he's got to choose the one where like I'm scoring nothing is it puts the 2 objectives all the way on my side of the board, which is rough for him with how few activations we've actually done. So he elects to choose where it's the 2 objectives in front of him, but the advantage of this for me is that Paz is close enough to the objective for me to be able to score the back one, which I think is huge. He knew Lando and R2 is coming, which is good because it guarantees he can take it from Bo. It doesn't look like he's rolled for priority yet, but I believe what's going to happen is we're going to realize it here in a moment, and then it's going to be the one that he's going after anyway. And then Crosshair's also scoring that one that's in the upper right that's in the bad spot. So yeah, there we go. Or it's not the one that Lando's on, but it's the one he's already going to control anyway. So doesn't matter. So R2's going to attack first, put in a big swing. He does roll a fail, so they're going to get exposed now. I do have a pretty solid block from her. Ends up with 3 blocks after expertise. So she's definitely going to get hurt a bit. The 2 crits on his roll go through. She is steadfast, so no shove. So she does take 2 damage after protection. I did put them on the Clan Kreese Mandos at the moment, but I'm going to catch that here in just maybe like 10 seconds. Great block, 2 expertise, 2 blocks, so I end up with 4 blocks. So he's going to do the same thing again, and it's going to be reduced to 2. And this is where I catch him like, oh, I put him on the wrong character. So 4 damage on Bo-Katan. I'm fine with that. So he scores 3, and I start scoring the point in the back with Paz. Okay, Mando flips up, and I think this is a great play for me here. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want to do it because there's Vader, and I don't want to be stuck in a spot where I'm engaged with Vader and then can't get at Lando and R2. And they have been actually activated now, and it's not right before a reshuffle, so it does mean that I can shoot them. And at this point, they've taken 3 damage and expose. But Heroes where I'm remembering, I'm like, hey, by the way, did you roll a fail on that second attack? And he's like, oh yeah, I totally did. So there would be another damage on Lando and R2 because they were already exposed. So first attack exposed them, second attack deals them a damage. So I'm like, okay. So Mando, where do I want to go for him? Like, am I just going for a shove and get onto the point? Finally remembered to roll priority. and it's the point I'm going after. It's where Lando and R2 is, so that's great. There might have been a world where I try to get Mando over to that other point or maybe reserve him. But this is where I'm like, I'm very happy that the role came up because this is the easier play, and I don't really like spending Force to reserve if I can help it. So what I elect to do here is because I want to ignore Vader. So I just advance forward, and then I'm going to take a shot. Like they don't have a hunker. And like I've only got to get 3 damage through on an exposed support that's kind of fragile, so I'm just hoping that Mando does the job, and I always have Clan of 2 for backup. So he ends up blocking 2, and I roll a pretty good roll. I believe I had 3 expertise, so there's this moment like, oh, do I get the 5 auto damage? Try to keep track of my disintegrations when I can, but nope, not quite there. But I get plenty of successes. I mean, there's like 3 crits, or maybe it's 4 crits all said and done, with my expertise in the roll. So he only has 3 health left. I'm guaranteed to wound here, so I know I'm going to take this point already. Looking at my tree, I do 5 damage, a shove, and a reposition. So I'm able to shove R2 off, and then reposition to the same ingress point that R2 used and go up the ladder to have Mando and Bo-Katan, which is a crazy combo. When you have both of them on a point, it's really punishing because you're like, Bo-Katan is giving steadfast and protection to Mando, which just makes him basically unkillable, like in most reasonable circumstances. I'm contemplating whether or not I Clan of 2. It was funny because just this past week, there was a conversation that came up, and I was like, I have never activated Mando and not used Clan of 2, and now I'm realizing that this is probably going to be the first one because I could spend a Force to shoot Vader with 5 dice, but it didn't feel super impactful, and I was thinking the 2 Force would be more useful later on. What I could have considered here, which maybe would have been a good idea, would have been to actually just Clan of 2 to shove Vader away. Might have been a good play. He goes ahead and reveals Luminara. He's getting a little nervous about his spending Force to reserve. And so at this point, he's electing to just get onto the point. And so it is a tough activation. Like, this is the thing with Luminara. Oh, of course, there was an objective that we left flip that was not. Really, I'm noticing as I'm doing these videos, I almost always leave one by accident, either my opponent or myself. And it's just really obvious on camera, and it's not obvious in the moment in the game because you just have so many things to think about. But this is always the side effect of playing Luminara, is that if she never gets like a movement from herself to get further forward, then it can just feel like she's can't be impactful in the right situations. So I roll fail for the score, and so I'm already scoring that point. So the only point that I'm not controlling at the moment is Luminara's. And I'm just not confident that Paz can go after that. And so what I was actually thinking about in this moment was, okay, I go ahead, I activate Paz, I move the Clan Kreese backwards, so now the Clan Kreese is actually on that point, and like maybe I shoot her or I put Paz on that point. And what I'm starting to get into the mindset of now is that it would just be better to kind of reinforce that back point and make it really hard for him to take it from me, to hurt Jake's ability to try to like make a big swing back. When you start getting to the point that your opponent is behind and you have multiple points that have multiple characters on them, the swing potential is just kind of stolen from them. And the problem is I forget to move the Clan Kreese. And so we don't back that up. And I get kind of focused on like what I'm doing with Paz. So he basically just climbs up, I believe, or it might have been advanced to the ladder and like walk up. But I definitely forgot to jump that Clan Kreese backwards, which would have been the smart. That's what I wanted to do. I'm like, I can shoot Vader. How much does that matter? I elect to just heal one off of the Clan Kreese. I have been finding I don't attack during Paz's activations very often. Most of the time I'm hunkering or in this case, I did a heal. I hmm, I think in all the games I've played with him so far, I've made one attack that's actually during his activation. So I score 3 there, and I've kind of reinforced things a little bit. So he's revealed Crosshair, and the double score is my back point. So this is fantastic for me because almost all of his stuff is wounded, right? The Lando and R2 are wounded, Fifth Brother's wounded, and Ezra's wounded. So the only character who's kind of not on a point, who's not wounded, is Vader. And he's just not close enough to make a big impact. And maybe this would have been a good reason to try to shove Vader with Paz, is to make sure, because like sometimes you're like, you think something's far enough away. He definitely is too far, but it'd been nice to like make him a little further away. But I know Crosshair can wound Paz for sure, and he does do the auto point at the start of his turn because he's not engaged. And the thing is Paz doesn't die. You can wound Paz and he will get the free dash, but Paz is going to stay on the point. So I end up blocking 3. Not like a crazy roll from Crosshair. So it's looking like he's going to get the wound, but he doesn't go far enough down his tree for the reposition. So he does, I believe, an auto damage from his expertise. So I just add that right away. And I'm like, okay, you just have to do 6 damage on your tree to get me. So, yep, that is the case. He does not get the reposition. He is going to wound Paz. And so we're resolving his triggers first. So he gets to dash someone somewhere. And then I have 3 potential triggers. I have Mando and I have both of the Paz triggers to resolve. And I'm not 100% sure if I need to interrupt this with the Paz stuff before he does the dash. Haven't played it enough to know that 100%. But what he does with Vader here has no impact on my Paz decision. So we go ahead and take care of Mando, just because it's simple. He's just gonna heal 2 off of Bo-Katan and stand where he's at. Paz is electing to take 2 wounded tokens so that he stays active. I know Crosshair's not coming to take this point from me, but I still feel like it's important to have Paz active so I can protect this point. And so then the question is do I want to take a shot? I only have 1 character left, and they're definitely not spending more than 1 force. So I elect to go ahead and might as well take the shot. So I'm gonna put a 5 dice shot into Crosshair just in case it matters. So I had a lot of expertise on the roll. And what the net result is that I get 1 through. And so all I do is 1 damage and pin on him, which is totally fine. I'm always happy when a character is pinned, especially when they're not wounded. And he only scores 1, which gives both of us a momentum, which is really bad for him. So I roll and it's fail. So that is a point I'm already controlling. So I've got Armorer. We're looking at the math, and if Armorer wounds Lumi, and I am able to get onto that point, I could win this turn if I'm able to do that. And I am going to expose Lumi, but it's still, I have to go pretty far down. I think I have to full tree, which is not crazy, but it's also not likely. So now I do the thing that I was supposed to do with Paz, which was move the Clan Kryze on there to reinforce that point. And so she gets a jump as part of her activated ability. So I'm resolving that first. So the jump, you pick like 1 unit to jump, and then she also gets to jump. And then she's going to advance now. And so that's her movement action. And then I'm going to use my last force to jump up. And even if we'd had that objective in the right spot, I think the likelihood is what I do is I probably jump to the ladder if Luminara was further back. And so I don't think it's going to end up impacting that he misplaced that objective. So I'm going to roll 8 dice. We do have this brief moment of like, oh, should I do the other tree? And it's like, I think I need one less success, but I'm rolling one less dice. And I really like the expertise on the hammer side, and it's been really good for me overall. And so I think I'm just going to stick with hammer. Hammer side has been doing such good work for me. I just want to like kind of stick with it. MC Hammer's my guy. So she rolls, ends up with 2 blocks after the expose. I had 2 fails on the 8 dice, which is totally normal, but that means that I'm not going to wound. So I end up going 4 down. So it does mean I'm going to get to shove her off the point, which is the most important part. I do 6 damage, leaving her at 3, and shove her off the point. And it's actually 2 shoves. And then I believe I'm going to elect to follow up with Armorer 1 just to put her a little closer. So there we go. We've got Armorer on that point. I'm going to score all 4. So it's not an auto win this turn. And I believe Shatterpoint is his last card. So I don't get the ending, but this is a really bad spot for Jake. And so now I'm doing the refresh. He's got Shatterpoint, and we're looking down at the table. And the reality is, he does not have a way to take 2 points. And the double score is the one spot that he basically cannot take. And so the problem here is, so we just call it, we don't resolve the last 2 activations because we kind of like go through the math. And it might have been possible for it to come back in if that priority roll had been, say, the point that Armorer is on, because he could elect to reactivate Luminara and try to shove Armorer off and score 2 there, or could go with something like Crosshair shoots, kills the clan Kreese, and then moves Luminara up the point, and then Crosshair moves up onto that point. But and even then he still has a chance to lose next round, and like probably even like a reasonably high chance. But with that priority roll, it was just absolutely impossible. There is no big spike. If he does Lando and R2 and brings them back, right? Then he's that would have to be the priority to make that worthwhile. I think the reality is the best play, if we had kept playing, would be that he Shatterpoints Ezra and then tries to go for that back point and see if Ezra can walk over to the ladder, shoot, wound the clan Kreese, maybe move Luminara up onto the point, and then have him get enough shove or movement to follow up and then steal that point from Paz would be the goal if that was possible. And then he scores 2. But even at that point, I'm 3 away from winning. So there's a very reasonable chance that if the priority rolls on one of the 2 points that I still control, I would just auto win anyway. Or if any flip allows me to take back that Ezra point, which could be a lot of characters, right? It could be, I think the only character that might not get it for me would probably be Bo-Katan, but I could reserve her, and I think every other character could probably accomplish it for me. So yeah, that ended up going not in his favor, and I am able to take that game in 2 struggles. We talked about it after the game, and I told him that I felt like he should have chosen to play the mirror if his goal was to try to win. I felt like my Mandalorian list just puts way too much pressure on the Vader Lumi list, where he just cannot keep up with how much I'm putting hard to kill targets on points, and that he's gonna play from a behind point. And that's what we saw, right? I had more bodies on points, and it just put him in a rough spot. And obviously, I think there's some couple of small mistakes there, like having Ezra take the 2 damage, I think was definitely a mistake where, yes, he would have loved to wound the Clan Kreese, but he's taking the point anyway, and Ezra's just already so fragile. And it's not like that side of the board, I had a bunch of wounding focused stuff. Like Bo-Katan, Clan Kreese, and Mando, none of them are known for one-shotting full health characters. So I think he should just go for the shove because he's guaranteeing the point anyway. Keep Ezra at full health, and I think that would have maybe helped him. But still, his list I think was just disadvantaged into Mando and Armorer. And for the most part, he played it the best that he could and was trying to give me a good game. And he was a just great sport, great opponent. He was never complaining the whole time, even though I felt like it was a rough game for him. But that's just the kind of great player that Jake is. He's just a good opponent. You just have fun games when you play him. So that wraps it up. Overall thoughts is I definitely think Mando and Armor is going to be a big part of the meta. I definitely, when I initially looked at the cards, I wasn't sure that Armor was going to make a big impact. But definitely now that I'm putting her on the table, she's top tier. I thought she was going to be a casual list for me, but nope, she's going to be amazing. She's going to be top eights, top fours, winning GTs, all of those things are all heavily in her bag. And I think there's going to be a few different variations. It doesn't have to be Mando with her. She's just really good. And Paz is a little interesting to play, but also very good. So it's a fantastic box. If you love Mandalorians, you are not going to be disappointed. So again, I just want to close this out with huge shout out to Nomads. Thank you for letting me record games. I really appreciate it. Awesome store, awesome employees. I ended up picking up the Crosshair Elite Squad Troopers and Firebrand box as I was leaving. Always happy to support the stores. And so again, big thank you to Nomads. Thank you to Jake for letting me record the game. Again, wonderful opponent. Love playing games with Jake. I'm always like, doesn't matter what the matchup is, I know I'm going to have a fun game with Jake. So, and again, thank all of you for watching and just giving me feedback because I'm really trying to improve these videos. You see, I've got some new dice trays trying to play around with making things a little bit more visible. Wanted to show off a different type of mat. So this one is still War Games, but it's that Jedi Temple theme, right? Give you something a little bit different to look at, but definitely got more stuff coming for all of you. Got a tournament next weekend that I'm hoping to record. So as always, this is a YouTube video. The most OP thing that you can do is like, comment, subscribe. I love all of you. Later, nerds.